So there we go. Well, if you're catching us here on the replay, what you're watching right now is just a simple 15 to 20 second lead in, waiting for some ads to play for those who have been patiently waiting on the live stream, actually on Thursday at 7 p.m. Central, tuned into my channel. Otherwise, welcome everybody into the Car Guy and SIXFAN show. Tonight, I'm your host. I'm Grant Tommy. I am straight SIXFAN or SIXFAN of this operation. That means this guy over here.
I'm Jason. I'm the car guy of the Car Guy and SIXFAN show. Welcome to everybody for this. This is going to be a momentous. I guess I shouldn't use such big words that I don't know what they mean, but this is going to be a great show tonight because one thing that our guest had done for us was he put out a little bit of a video and wanted to make sure that all of his viewers came over to our live stream and try and break that 105 in attendance record. So thank you guys for being here. I want to jump over right quickly into the chat and acknowledge everybody before we introduce our guest. Turlo's Garage, Mechanics, Will's Wheels, Mr. Heavy Chevy is in the house. We've got Greasy Boy Customs. Who else? Thomas Thompson and 805.
Road King.
Road King and Kurt Ludwig. And we got all kinds of people jumping in here. 44 people waiting. Thank you for tuning in. Grant, why don't you go and introduce our guest?
Well, I mean, I could introduce our guest, but I think he's going to do a much better job. Old Ken, as we know him personally, but I'm going to turn it over to you, Ken, and just why don't you tell the crowd who you are and a little bit about your YouTube channel.
Well, my name's Ken, but I go by the name Waylon Wire on my YouTube channel, and I found out that I changed my name one time, and I've been accused of, well, what's he calling himself this week, but it's only been one change in the whole time that I've been on YouTube. But my name prior was 1963 Impala because that's the car that I started my YouTube videos with. And I never expected it to go this far, last this long, or be this many videos, or reach the number of subscribers that it has. So the 1963 Impala thing, that was just one car specific. And when I switched it over to Waylon Wire's Old Iron, then I gained 10,000 subscribers right away because it was just more general. And as you can see behind me, Old Iron's kind of what I'm all about. That's kind of what my YouTube channel is about.
I mean, they always ask what's in a name, right? But if I remember right, it was not only just 1963 Impala, but I think two-door TD2DR at the end of it.
TDR.
Yeah. Well, so that's where I wanted to start with the conversation, okay. Waylon, is that this is not meant to be an old joke at all, but I mean, you were almost basically there right from the start with YouTube, right? I mean, I think 2007, like a lot of us, a lot of us are slow to the game, didn't know what this thing is, but I mean, you've really been one of the original like car guy channels from the start, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm an overnight success. It's only taken me 14 years.
Well, I guess the other part of my question would be like, so reversing all the way back to then, to 2007, like what motivated you to say, hey, I want to jump in on this. I want to start a YouTube channel. I want to like document my build. Take us back to the origins, what it was like in the early years.
I think it just started out. I don't know why I did the very first one was an old 56 Chevy that I had, a 6-cylinder. You remember that one, Grant? Lorraine, I called it. Yeah. And I did a short video on that. And, you should see it. The resolution is so grainy. I mean, cameras have come a long way in 14 years. It was really bad. But I just did the little video of that 6-cylinder running. I had twin carbs on it, and it was kind of cool, and I had split exhaust, and that was my first video. And then I guess I was restoring the Impala, and I had quite a few still shots of that, just photographs. And my son put together a little video, a slideshow with those photographs of that Impala and start to finish, the tear down, and when the engine was all gunky, and then when it was brand new and sitting in the car and all painted, and then the finished product. And I think that was about my second video, and that's when I called the channel 63 Impala 2DR. But that was how it started. And then I thought, well, I might make a few videos just so my grandkids could see what Pappy's up to, because two of my grandkids live in Michigan, and I'm, of course, in Washington State. So I only get to see them once a year. And I thought, well, maybe they could kind of watch the videos and see what Pappy's doing. And then it just kind of evolved into this car thing. And from there to here.
Well, before I ask my first question, I just want to make sure that everybody knows that tonight we are safe. We are playing safety first. And just in case something happens to spontaneously combust, I've got everybody covered. So don't you worry.
I appreciate that, man.
Ken, I'll be first to admit that I'm actually fairly new to your channel. And like I said before we went live, my dad, who watches your channel and not mine, kind of led me to you. And when he found out that we were having you as a guest, I almost think I sensed a little bit of excitement in him. But let's go back to the actual name, Waylon Wire. Where does that come from? Because like I said, I'm new and I don't know where the derivative is.
Well, nobody knows. I don't think that watch my YouTube channel. I don't think I've ever mentioned that where it came from. So that's a good question, Jason. Actually, years ago, before I started doing YouTube, I had a friend that played some music with. I bang on the guitar a little bit. I'm not really a player. I pick at it. It's never going to get well if I don't quit picking at it. But anyway, we did a couple collaborations on some music, and I cannot remember. I was thinking about it today because I knew you were going to ask me this, and I can't remember the name of the website, but there was a website where you could make your own music and upload it, and some of it got pretty well received, and some of it was shared quite a lot. But we decided to pick out our alias names to upload our music, and he was called Payden, first name Payden, Peyden, last name Cash. So he was Payden Cash. That's pretty clever. And I thought, I can't top that. But anyway, I came up with, I don't know how or why, but I came up with Waylon. Well, of course, Waylon Jennings, country singer. And I thought, well, Waylon Wire, that's kind of catchy, you know. So that was the alias that I used when I was uploading music to that website. And then that's been kind of fun because now my son Rusty Wire, you see him in a couple of music videos, and I've done some split screen where I was playing alongside accompanying myself and call it Waylon Wire and Balin Wire, and so yeah, then the sister Barb Wire, and it just goes on.
Well, and I remember your collaboration early on. I think you did some, if I remember right, with Shade Tree Fix-It Man, old George, the Shade Tree Fix-It Man, a guy who I followed for a long time with my go-kart building.
Yeah, and a guy named R. Peak.
Yeah. You
remember him, Grant?
Yep.
Yeah, R. Peak was the first one. That first YouTube video that I put up, he was the first person that commented on that video. And his video that I watched was the first video that I ever commented on. So we go back 14 years, and he's been around just a little bit longer than I have. He's got, I don't know, 1.3 million videos, or no, not quite, but it's a lot. And we tease each other. We've become good friends over the years, and we tease each other quite a bit because I played around. You talk about what makes your channel work, and I've played around with a few different formats, and at one point people were saying we want longer videos, you know. It needs to be like a TV show, you know, about a half hour, and but don't ever make it longer than it needs to be. I know I'm kind of jumping ahead here, but
no, go ahead.
But don't ever make it longer than it needs to be, you know, to make your point or get the project finished or whatever. Just to make it that long, whatever it is, it is. Some of mine are 20 minutes, but most of them, I trim the fat out of a lot of them, but I try to keep them down to about 30 minutes. But he told me, R. Peak said, I can't watch your videos because they're just too long. And I said, I can't watch yours because you put one up every 10 minutes. You know?
Yeah, so on the Car Guy and Six Fan show, that's what we pride ourselves on is helping out the next guy, like learning tips and tricks about their YouTube journey. And so it's always fun to hear everybody's story. But one of the other things we talk about too is I like to call it like the graduating class of fill in the blank. Whenever you got into YouTube, like there's always some other channel that was there from the beginning, and you kind of like ran around in this circle from the beginning. For me, it was a coworker of mine, Greg's Garage, and I think I found our peak through him. And then eventually I found your channel, Ken. But yeah, it's been it's just that community you build and just learning about the people from day one. It makes a huge difference. And I mean, that's how Jason and I found each other when he was a fledgling, but now he's like triple my size. But I guess the big question, or like right there in the background, it's the rat rod building. What led you into like all of a sudden? We went from the red 63 Impala, but into rat rod building. What's the draw to building rat rods, I guess?
I've just always been a fan of the rat rods since, that's what I drove when I was a kid. It didn't have a name. We just, whatever old junk cars we could piece together and make them go down the road. That's what we drove. Well, now they're called rat rods, but, so I've just always been a fan of that, and I really like that look. Or they're, I'm not into trailer queens. I mean, I've got, I think there's a place for it. I wouldn't like my Impala. I restored that, and it's totally original. And that car needed to be restored, and it should be, kept the way it is. But I'm going to drive it. Only time it's going to be on a trailer. I'm not into trailer queens. If it winds up on a trailer, it's because I broke it, and I'm going to break it because I'm going to drive it. So. I've just always been a fan of the rat rods, and I just decided I was going to build one. And I'm reading the comment here by a Greasy Boy. But so the Rockabilly Rat was the first one I built, and I had no idea how to build a car. And I built the frame, built it from the ground up, built the frame and the whole deal, and I did a lot of things wrong, and I've learned a lot. But I always say just not knowing how to do something, it never even slowed me down. I mean, fools rush in where angels fear to tread. I'm the first one there. But I'm just not, if you want it bad enough, you can do it. And that's part of what my channel is about. I hope to show some young guys, if they can put up with watching an old guy on YouTube, and a lot of them do. Sometimes I get comments, and that makes me happy when a young guy says, yeah, I'm only 19, or I'm only 22, and I dig this stuff, and that makes me happy, because I really hope to inspire some young guys that they can put something together and try, be safe about it, make it safe, but you don't have to spend $20,000 to do it. You can probably do it with $3,500 or maybe $5,000, but you sure don't have to spend $50,000 to build a car. So I don't know. I got kind of carried away there, Grant. I don't know if I answered your question or not. But yeah, that's how I've just always been a fan of and that's what I drove when I was a kid. So that's dear to my heart,
Well, I think to any car guy, there's a certain level of expectation when it comes to, what kind or what quality of build that you want to do. Is it going to be on a budget because you want to budget it? Is it going to be on a budget because you don't have any money? So I get the idea of rat rods today, unlike they may have been 20 or 30 years ago or more. But, we look at rat rods today, and people are spending $100,000 building a rat rod, based on, good, safe drivetrain, and everything else just looks ratty. I get that. And I'm not one to say, I don't like rat rods. I love them. I think it's a great concept, to get in there and dive in. Where does the inspiration come from? A specific build, or maybe we talk about the vehicle behind you. Like where does that inspiration come from? Like what does something just pop in your head and say, this is what I want to do, or does it just happen in time?
I've got a go-to saying. I always say my mind's like a bad neighborhood, man. It should never go there alone. But I do, and I don't know. I've Grant's been around long enough to see. You've seen some of my yard art. I used to do a lot of yard art. And you've seen Laramie, the skeleton gunslinger that sits along my driveway, Grant. And So I just always kind of had an eye for the artistic thing about what looks right, you know. And I always tell people these sculptures will tell you what's right and what's wrong. I've built, you know, Venus flytraps out of shovels and rakes for the little claws and or the little teeth, you know, that close up. And I'll look at that thing and I go, no, that one leaf's a little bit too high, you know, it needs to come down just a little bit. So I've always kind of had an eye for that. And I've got a friend who lives in a little town near here, and he's a perfectionist. Boy, he did one of my videos. I did his truck. He had a Diamond T, and he had an all chromed out 400 small block Chevy in it, and he was afraid to drive it, you know, afraid to put a scratch on it. He finally sold it because he couldn't drive it, and I think that's a shame, you know. But he looked at my Dojelac and he goes, "Wow, that thing's proportionate," you know, and that really meant a lot to me because him being such a perfectionist, and I know he's got an eye for it, but it's like I cut the back half off that 1957 Cadillac and put it behind that 1940 Dodge truck cab. And if I had cut that thing 4 inches shorter or 4 inches longer, it just wouldn't have looked right. So I kind of have an eye for that, I guess, about proportions. And I kind of made this thing a little bit too long, but it'll be all right. I'm talking about the Dirty Dozen back here.
Yeah,
I want it to be ridiculous, you know, and it fits the bill.
Yeah, I mean, there's something to be said too about like making a real life Rat Fink cartoon, right? So the disproportionate sometimes has a place, and I did just want to take a second to just note we are at 102 viewers right now, and so we need 4 more to beat the all-time record of 105. So if you guys are enjoying your time, go ahead and take a minute and hit the old share button, blast it out on your social media, and go find your friends to come and join the party. And speaking of joining the party, did want to make mention of the people dropping in super chats here this evening. So Jason, thank you for saying let's get the party started. But then we had Mopar Din basically just showing his appreciation for having this live stream, and then our friends over at Coastal Auto Reaction as well. So we appreciate all that, and we do take note of those who've given super chats over the course of the season, and there might be something at the end of the season that shows up in your mailbox or of some sort because of that. Anyway, so Ken, the Dirty Dozen, we'll head right into that. And so what I'm curious about is what came first. Was it, you know, chicken or the egg? Was it the cab or was it the V12 power plant? How did this one kind of get its origins?
Well, it was absolutely the V12. I discovered those on the internet, and I didn't know about those until just a few years ago. And I never thought I would be fortunate enough to own one because they're pretty rare and they're quite expensive if you find one that's running. There's not many of them left. I don't know how many they built to begin with, but there's not a whole lot of them around. And I never thought I would own one. So that's how I have an old GMC pickup that I call Jimmy. It's a GMC, so I call it Jimmy, and I call it Jimmy Hoffa. And I've had to change the titles of some of my YouTube videos because YouTube gets weirded out about certain things. But anyway, we know where Jimmy Hoffa is. He's sitting out back there. But that has the GMC V6 in it. And I was going to get 2 of those. I actually did. I have about 4 or 5 of them. But I was going to couple 2 of those together like you see them do. You see them put V8s end to end. I was going to couple 2 of those V6s together and make my own V12. And then a buddy of mine, dang his hide, he's always sending me Craigslist ads and stuff, you know. And he sent me this ad, and there was a guy selling 2 of these V12 blocks. One of them was a bad block, but the other one had everything good, was a good block, and had, you know, you could take the 2 and make one. And he actually went into Canada and got those for me. I think I was busy with my grafting season at the time, and I couldn't get away. But he didn't have time to go get them for himself, but he had time to go get them for me. That's what a good guy he is, you know. What a pal. But I had those 2, and that was my plan, was to try and build one out of those 2. And then this one came up on eBay, and I snagged it. And I drove to Kansas and picked it up. And if you want to know just a little bit of history about those, I can tell you a little bit more about them. But but that's where that came from.
So we have reached 116. I think it's kind of creeping up and down. Thank you guys for coming on over and joining the party. A couple of things I want to make note here before I ask my next question to Ken. If you're in the chat and you're not subscribed to Straight Six Fan, now's the time to go ahead and hit that subscribe button. We're all doing this because we have a passion for cars. We have a passion for YouTube. We want to share the projects that we're doing. And with your support, that's what keeps us going. That's why we keep things going there. Grant, anything you want to add to that before I go on?
Well, it's like our friend Rat Rod Bob Builds says, subscriptions are free this week too. So
that's right. Absolutely.
Yeah, he's a good buddy of mine too. He and I share the same last name. We haven't made any connection that we're actually related, but we do share the same last name.
So I guess one of the things I wanted to talk about was a little bit about your location. Now, you said you're on the eastern side of Washington, which I'm assuming is what a lot of guys may describe as the dry side of Washington. So you had mentioned before we went on air that you get a lot of really good conditioned vehicles that we don't see, especially here on the East Coast. Tell us a little bit about any barn finding or any hunting. Do you do stuff like that when it comes to vehicles? Are you specifically looking for stuff, or does it just happen upon you?
It's just everywhere. And I find some of it, Jason, because of my business. I do orchard grafting, and we go into the orchards and we change the varieties for them. And that's a whole nother topic and a whole nother YouTube channel. But because of that, I see things that a lot of people don't see. And I'm always driving around the backside of these orchards, and they've all got a scrap pile back there. And I've discovered some things. I don't know that I'd have to think about it. I've probably dragged something home because of that. But I just see a lot of stuff. But all you have to do is just get out and look. You can drive the alleys in this town and the back roads, and you're just going to see old iron everywhere. And it's this way pretty much throughout eastern Washington and eastern Oregon and the Cascade Range divides the state. And anything east of the Cascades, it's a real arid climate. And I meet people. I met a lot of people in California that say, "Oh yeah, well, you're from Washington. Oh yeah, it rains all the time up there." Well, we get less rain in Los Angeles in my area. About 9 inches a year. So, and I've been driving by vehicles, some of them for 50 years, and they don't look any different now than they did the first time I saw them, And if I was on the East Coast, it'd just be going down into the ground as the years go by, It just doesn't happen here. They're just arid climate preserves them.
Rust to rust, ashes to ashes, as we say on the East Coast, right?
Yeah. And there's a man under the bed. I don't know if he's coming or going, but dust to dust, man.
Yeah, kind of I'm almost afraid to admit it, Ken, but I remember from the very early on when I was watching your channel, because you have, your pond in your yard and you have a lot of like things growing, and then I heard your Ozark roots coming through. I assumed when I was watching your early videos, I just assumed you were living in like Eastern Tennessee or Western North Carolina. I never saw the arid like in the background. And then I was boy, I was way off.
Yeah. Well, I have what people call a little oasis that I built here. And I have 40 acres here, and I'm kind of in the center of that. And I really have, by the time I'd been here 5 years, people thought I had been here 20 years because I was pretty energetic and I had a backhoe and a tractor, and I just went crazy with it. And so I did a lot of landscaping, and never dawned on me then that I'd get old someday and have to take care of all this stuff. But here we are.
Well, you mentioned your grafting business, and that was always interesting to me. I'd never, that concept was completely just foreign to me, and I think that's really cool. I guess I'll try to keep it very condensed. Basically, you're cutting down like an apple tree or something, and then you precision with a chainsaw, like you're cutting the slivers and you're putting in new like sprouts or sprigs from a different tree, and like they just end up melding together. But I'm not going to call you retired because I know you still do the grafting stuff, but I guess we'll just speak a little bit towards the off season, I guess. And one of the things I'm super jealous of you, Ken, is when you have your buddies over for pie and coffee. That's one of those things that, like, even though I'm only 36, I definitely yearn for the day when I can just slam down a bunch of pie with my buds. So tell us about how that came about.
Yeah. Yeah, well, be careful. You don't wind up looking like me. Got to be careful with that pie. But yeah, and I really miss that. We haven't been able to do that since the COVID thing, you know, and so I really missed that and hope to get back to doing that again. But the grafting thing, as you described it, yeah, it's kind of like that. But yeah, it takes the chainsaw work, and my foreman has been with me for 35 years. So I guess I'm not too hard to work with. And he's just like a brother, but he's been running the thing for several years. And I just show up in the morning and say, what do you want me to do? He always puts me on that stinking chainsaw, man. You know, and I'm capable of doing other things, but that's where I always wind up. And yeah, so then we collect the clients collect the desired variety from neighboring orchards or from nurseries, and it's dormant wood they've collected of the variety that they want. And we take that and through some precision cuts, and you kind of got to know what you're doing. It's not rocket surgery, but you got to know where the cambium layer is, and yeah, you got to know what you're doing. And so we change varieties. We can take a golden delicious apple and put on a Fuji or a Gala or whatever is potentially going to pay the bills that year.
We did have a couple more. We did have a couple more super chats come in there from Nick's Garage, $10, and George says that he's been watching your channel ever since before they had a channel, and I think they've been around for 2 or 3 years now at least. Jim Fellows also $20. Thank you, Jim, for supporting the channel and being a part of the show tonight.
Yeah, I was surprised and very pleased when Nick showed up on one of my channels and made a comment about the little guys. I've got these little neighbors, these little twins that are 8 years old, and I just love those little kids. And they play them. I showed them playing the ukulele. They both play music, and they're just fantastic. And Nick commented on the kids and his ability. He built a little replica of my rockabilly rat. It's a little metal sculpture that he did, and 8 years old, and he was adamant about the rake. It had to be just right and had to drop spindles, and he did some of the welding on it. And Nick commented on that, and I really appreciated that. Thank you, Nick.
He says that they just passed 5 years on YouTube. I guess I should have known that because I've been around for 3-ish or more anyways, but they've been around longer than I have. So I think we're getting to the part of our show, Ken, where we talk a little bit about some of the strategies that you may have used. We talked a little bit about it at the beginning of the show, but something that you find helps with your YouTube channel, because there's a lot of other smaller channels like us in the chat that are learning and trying to find their way and reach up to some of those milestones like 1,000 or 5,000 or 10 or whatever they're doing. What's some form of advice that you've learned that's worked for you on your channel that you could give them?
Well, I've learned it all. I didn't know anything going in, absolutely nothing. And I had a grafting client, and my guys, we've gotten a lot of mileage out of one of his comments. If he didn't know exactly how to do something in the orchard, he had a real deep voice, and it was just comical. And he'd say, well, boys, I'm just going to have to fly naked on this one. So that's what I had to do with my YouTube channel. I just started, but I've learned quite a bit along the way, and we kind of touched on that a little bit earlier, and I was talking about the length of the videos, and I had at one point I had a lot of requests for my videos to be longer because I thought YouTube videos in the beginning they were supposed to be 3 minutes long. And that's just kind of how most of them were. And so, as you said, I've been here since the beginning. So pretty much of YouTube since 2007. I don't know when YouTube started, a couple years before that, or a year maybe, but that's the early years. And so it's evolved and changed, and I started to see these formats change into a longer video where it's more like a little TV show. It's about a half hour long, and that seemed to capture an audience when I started making them a little bit longer. And that's one tip, I guess. I mean, that's what's worked for me, but I'm always having to trim the fat out of it and shorten up the video to get it to a half hour. And there's a lot of stuff that doesn't make it to the video. But I was mentioning earlier, you don't ever want to drag it out and make it longer just to get it to a half hour. If it's a 15-minute video and you make the point and you get the project done and that's what it is, and because people get bored, and I do. And when I get bored, I click off and go watch something else. And I make a graceful exit. I don't hang around and gripe about what they're doing, but you guys know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But anyway, I just go. But that's one thing. And then the other thing that has really helped me a lot, and I'll pass this on because I see people making this mistake. You want to have a subject and stick to that subject. If it's going to be old cars, make it about old cars, because I had a lot of people say, "Oh, we want you to play more music. You should do more music on your video." Well, there's people that hate me doing music on the videos because they come for the car. They come for this right there. And they didn't come to hear some hillbilly banging on a guitar and bailing out and stuff, So stick to your topic. And so I made another channel for those people that wanted to hear that hillbilly music. They can go over to, shameless plug here, Waylon Wire's old music and see that stuff. And I have another channel called All About Grafting because a lot of people were interested in the grafting. But I've learned to don't mix it up here. And I had some people that early on said, "Oh yeah, one life, one channel, include everything." No, because people come for these old cars, and that's what my channel is about. So I think that's probably the best tip I could give and the best advice I could give anyone, because I see guys starting out and I see them making that mistake, and they have a couple of pretty good videos, and it's about some hot rod they're working on, and then the next thing they're showing that they're out building a chain link fence or something, and it loses interest. And so that's the best bit of advice that I could give is pick a topic and stick to it.
Yeah, I think everybody thinks they can do it all, and it's just not the reality. People come to you because they think you're a subject matter expert in fill in the blank, and then same thing, like the one-off video about the chain link fence. Well, the person who's drilling the chain link fences for whatever reason, comes back next week, and you're like, "What's he doing working on this Cadillac/Dodge pickup truck? Like, I don't get it." Like, you know what I mean? And then they go away, and then they're a one-time only person, but.
Yeah. I think you can do it all, but not everybody wants to see it all.
Right. And I think that what's interesting, or maybe to piggyback on that question, Ken, is because you've been around on YouTube for so long, you've probably, because of all the policy changes, and like you said at the very beginning, they kind of limited you to the 3-minute video. And so you've had to probably adjust and make changes along the way every time. And you've been through era after era of this new YouTube. So how does somebody stay fresh and adapt? Or have you found yourself adapting as the years have gone by to like the latest change?
Well, I don't remember any restrictions on the time. There was, because you had to be a partner before you could make your videos. And I can't remember what that time limit was. Maybe one of you
when
knows.
I started, it was you couldn't do over 15 minutes, and which is a shame. My one video that when you were talking about make a video as long as it needs to be, I was doing a how-to video on the fuel filter change for my Dodge Liberty CRD common rail diesel. Nobody had made a video like that, so I knew I was going to be the first one to make this video, and it's probably my second or third most popular video, and there's like one more thing I wanted to show people, but I had to edit it out because I had to hit 15 minutes. So it was a travesty. But anyway, I kind of hijacked that one. Go back to what you were thinking.
Well, that's what it was. That was the point I was making. At one time, if you weren't a YouTube partner and had your videos, open to revenue, you couldn't make the video any longer. And then once that happened, but I still didn't do that. I didn't make them very long because I just thought I thought 10 minutes is enough. And it was my subscribers that commented and said, we want to see them longer. And so I tried it, and it kind of worked, I guess. I mean, it's because it's going to. But you're taking me back, things I haven't thought about in so long. I'd forgot all about that time restriction and that, because that was just many years ago. But as far as staying current, I'm not sure that I do, but there's there's enough old guys around like me that and one thing that makes me happy too is over the years I've gotten lots of emails from guys and from maybe family members. One guy said my dad was in a wreck and he's laid up in the hospital, and your videos just, man, he enjoys your videos watching you work on that old iron. And would it be okay if I burn them on a DVD for him to play? And I said, absolutely. You know, and I've had a few emails. It gives me goosebumps. Just, man, that's good stuff, you know. And if anybody can get anything like that from it, man, that makes me happy. That and young guys getting something out of these videos, and I've had a lot of comments too about people say, you've inspired me, you know, to get off the couch and go out in the garage and get busy and work on my project. And it don't happen by itself. you know, you got to put in the hours, and I've got a lot of other stuff going on. And the biggest complaint I get nowadays is, oh, you're not working on the Dirty Dozen. And while I still stay with the car theme, well, I have all these cars to maintain, and I love them, and I want to drive them, so I have to take care of them, and I just can't work on this thing all the time. I wish I could. And in the wintertime, you know, last winter, my YouTube videos were getting a lot more views because that's what I was working on all the time. And then when I start going off and doing other things, it kind of drops down. But that's okay. That's just the way it is, you know. They gotta live with it a little bit. But I still try to stay true to the old car theme.
Ken, one thing that I've asked in the past is, you know, like there's different channels out there that are doing, you know, their own thing. They're doing something a little bit more unique than somebody else, and you know, we're not trying to copycat anybody. We're just we're doing our own thing. You're doing your own thing, and I found with what I've been watching on your channel is it's very wholesome. Anybody can sit down and watch your channel. There's no fear of anything derogatory or political or anything like that. They can just sit down and watch it and enjoy what you have. My question is, do you still get haters, and how do you deal with them?
Oh yeah, once in a while there's you know, yeah, you think that you talk about that rat rod like that's something special, and it's just a piece of junk, and I've been called names, and I won't even repeat them here, but and you know, you don't want to get on that level. You can't get on that level with people, you know. Just hold your head high and do what you do, and realize how many people enjoy it. I get lots of emails and comments from guys that say, man, I really, really appreciate what you do, because I spend a lot of time editing my videos, a lot of time, sometimes 5 or 6 hours for a 20-minute video, and try to put in funny little things and just kind of cute little edits that makes it kind of stand out. Case in point.
Okay.
But I've never intentionally set a fire, you know, not really, not intentionally. I thought about doing one tonight just for the live stream, but yeah, how I deal with them is tell them to have a nice day. You know, it's mind over matter. I don't mind, and they don't matter.
Now that belongs on the shirt. That belongs on the shirt. Yeah. And we're continuing to shatter the all-time record. So we keep resetting it. We went up to 137 there earlier. So again, I think we're having a really great party. And I normally, we probably would have switched over to commenters questions earlier, but I think we're going to do that now because I anticipate there's going to be a lot. So if you're in the chat, I know there was one earlier that I want to try to maybe scroll back and find, but start thinking of your questions for Ken. Go back to the hater conversation. I don't know if anybody here watches Gary Vaynerchuk ever, but he had one blurb on it that he says he seriously feels sorry for those people. And he says, he's like, if your life is really that bad, that you gotta go out of your way to make some shitty comment about something like that, he just treats them with kindness. And he said, and I've taken that approach, and it's fairly like empowering, because it's like I honestly tell the people, I said, hey man, I'm sorry for whatever's going on in your life. I hope it turns around right now, for you, because I mean, it's just like, that's a really shitty comment. I don't know why you felt the need to go out of your way to make a comment like that. And it's like, man, things must be pretty bad for you, because my life's pretty great, like right now. And so, and it's funny how nobody responds to those. So I hope people are just reflecting on themselves and thinking like, yeah, okay, maybe
Well, when I first started my channel, I was pretty defensive, and I kind of get riled up, about this stuff. And I learned if you're going to be a YouTuber, you better grow some pretty thick skin. And you better be here for the right reasons. And if you're here to have people stroke your ego, you better go do something else, because this is the place to get all kinds of criticism, constructive and otherwise. But usually I just tell them have a nice day, or I don't even bother. But there was one I commented on here recently, and I can't, this is how much it bothers me. I don't even remember what the comment was. I don't even know what the guy said. But what was it I told him? Well, it slipped my mind now. I'm old. But anyway, I had kind of a comeback for him, but it wasn't nasty or anything. I know what I told him. I said, when I don't like what I'm seeing on a YouTube channel, I just make a graceful exit. I just go. I don't hang around and bitch about what I'm seeing, and this guy did. That's all he did, was just hang around and gripe about what I was doing. And well, if you don't like it, go watch something else. Go watch Oprah, man. I don't know.
Well, and that's what it is, right? Like it's one thing to not like what you're doing or totally disagree or whatever. There's a couple of things you can do. If you disagree with what you're seeing, you can do it in a pretty calm, cool, and collective way, and make a conversation of it. Or you can be a jerk. But why bother? Like if what you're seeing isn't good and you don't like it, it takes one click to change the video. It takes 100 clicks to type a sentence and condemn somebody, right? So much easier just to, like you said, graceful exit and just kind of walk away and make sure that, you can hold your head high, knowing that, what I'm doing is what I'm doing. We do have a question there.
One click can change your whole life, man.
That's right. That's right. We do have a question from Mopar Den. He's saying maybe Waylon can take a second to tell us the current status of the 65 D200.
Yeah, the next video coming up, it's already edited. I just haven't put it up yet. It's about that. And what's going on with that truck and why I haven't been driving it. We went last summer, we went on a cruise, and we didn't get to do a lot because of COVID. There were no car shows and everything was kind of shut down. But some of us got together and went on a little cruise, and these buddies of mine, these good friends of mine, it's hard to do donuts without a drive shaft. But anyway, these good buddies of mine, they started showing off and being smart alecks, and they decided they were going to outrun a Waylon Wire in that D200. Well, I got up to 100 miles an hour, but they didn't outrun me. They didn't run off and leave me. But that old engine hadn't quite been the same since. I didn't do it any favors, but it wasn't in real good shape anyway. That's an old farm truck, and it's just been worked to death, and that's why I love it. I just love its history. I love cars that have a history, and I know that when I know that history, that just adds a lot to the value for me. But didn't do that engine any good, but it was not good anyway. We did a compression check on it, and it had one bad cylinder. It's got some bad valves. So it's been in my mind to either find some heads for that engine with good valves, or you can probably buy heads cheaper than you can have that one refurbished nowadays.
Yeah.
Well, I found an engine. I actually found an engine for it, and I got it on Craigslist. Guy that had it for $250, so I couldn't even buy the heads for that. And well, I don't want to give away too much, but the next video coming up, yeah, you'll see that one sitting in the floor and things happening. Yeah, so that's kind of an update on the D200. It's coming.
Well, Waylon, you had mentioned earlier about how you really like to dig into the history of each individual vehicle, and you even talked about the Dirty Dozen behind you and how the cab to it's got a unique history, and you came all the way to Kansas. And I just wanted to take a moment. If you ever come back to Kansas, let me know, because I want to take you to, if you're not already following our mutual friend Chad at Nobody's Show on YouTube. Okay. He's got a classic iron yard full of like 1,300 old cars, and I mean, he's got a gold mine. So I'd love to set up a tour and walk you through that, because it's just, I mean, every time I go.
I want to do that. I actually want to drive my Impala cross country, and I can't do it this fall. I just ran out of time, and I have to be around here in the summertime. I have to irrigate because it's so dry here. There wouldn't be anything here without irrigation. So I have to be here to tend to that, to tend to my place. But in the fall, next fall, I hope to do a road trip in my Impala. That's on my bucket list. Not much on my bucket list, but that is. I really want to drive that car across country. I want to drive that all the way back to North Carolina and visit Mr. Heavy Chevy again, and I want to take it cross country and back, and hopefully meet some of you people along the way. I think it'd really be fun to drive that old car across country and stop and shake some hands along the way. That's my goal.
And that would be pretty cool. I mean, the Carolinas are only about a day and a half drive from me. So, I mean, if you're driving 3 or 4, what's another, day and a half north, up the East Coast. So that would be pretty cool if you made it up this way. Or, I mean, maybe if you're driving all that way, I could go a little ways myself.
I would certainly hope so.
Yeah. So one thing that we had, we all have ambitions and things that we want to do. And, when certain things that take place around the world kind of put things on a quick halt, we have to reorganize and take a look and see what we want to do. With things kind of slowly moving in the semi back to normal stage of life here, we're looking at travel plans ourselves. So I think the idea of being able to, like you said, shake some hands with some of the people that we see in our chat every Friday or every Thursday night. We've been talking to these people for a long time. Grant and I have been doing this show now for 3 years. Never met face to face. So I think it's something that, it'd be awesome to meet somewhere along the way on a road trip, hot rod power tour, something like that someday, and meet up with a lot of people that we've been talking with.
Absolutely. You really do get to feel like these people, and like Mr. Heavy Chevy and I, we just kind of became friends, behind the scenes. We started calling and texting and just visiting and just had a lot in common and just became quick friends. And I was going to ask if you two had ever met in person. And, there's Grant mentioned earlier, one of the music videos that I did was a collaboration between myself and George, the Shade Tree Fix-It Man, and R. Peak. And then there was another guy in Maine, R. Peak's friend, and his channel was called One Eye Dan, and he's since passed away. But we did this music together, and I sent them a track, and they put their headphones on and listened and played along with it. And then they sent their track back to me, and then I mixed it all down. And it was really fun to make music with these guys that I've never met.
Well, and speaking of, of meeting people and talking and getting to build a relationship. So Grant and I, we text quite often, basically because of the show. We were always running ideas off of each other, whether it be thumbnails or titles or stuff like that. And another fellow that was in the chat earlier is Coastal Auto Reaction, Luke, and him and I had kind of been doing the same thing. In fact, he ran into a situation where his computer died, and I edited a video for him trying to help him stay on track and get things going. And guys, if you haven't caught Luke's most recent video, make sure you head on over there. It's a pretty good one. That's part of networking. That's part of being in, I guess you could say, the business that Grant and I are in here, is connecting and being a part of this great automotive community that has kind of been pulling everybody together. Networking, getting to meet you, Ken, via a computer screen, but nevertheless, that's it's great to be able to do that. And all these other people, it's the community that's been created. We didn't do it, but we're helping to keep the community going, right? And with yours, your videos and your inspiration, your music, your comedy, your wholesomeness. These are things that people look up to. Your experience, you've been doing it for a long time. So on behalf of everybody that's here in the chat and on the show tonight, and our 140 plus viewers who had jumped in there, thank you for everything that you do to help support the YouTube community and everything that you're doing.
And this is the part of the show where we usually dip into maybe a little peek behind the curtains, talk about what's coming down the pike for our channels. And so I guess I'll start. And honestly, I really don't know. The Fairmont's running good. So I think I owe everybody a burnout or some new 0 to 60 times. So I really don't know exactly what I'm going to do.
Don't break it.
Yeah, I know. That's why I think I'm pushing off the burnout video maybe to a little bit later on. Like, I want to have some more like actual real fun driving at places before I shank a you joint or something. Yeah, Jason, what's coming down the pike over at Old Car Guy?
Well, you guys saw an early video that popped up this week, and I do have another one in the queue talking about, we had a busy spell. As you guys know, if you follow me on Instagram, last week we literally sold almost half of our inventory in 1 week. So when you do that, you've got to replace it. And so last week we bought 6 vehicles, and well, only 2 out of the 6 were pretty well ready to hit the lot. We ran into some big troubles with the other 4. So you're going to get an update on that video tomorrow when it goes live. Ken, you had mentioned a little bit about your new video that's coming up with the D200. Is there any other tidbits that you might be able to share with us to wet our whistle?
Well, yeah, I'd like to get that engine swapped out in a D200 this winter, and I hope to spend a lot of time on this Dirty Dozen. I think the next thing that's going to happen with that is probably the brakes. For a long time, I was saying the drive shaft is next, and then I thought about it, and I go, Waylon, what could possibly go wrong? No brakes, and I know if it's got a drive shaft in it, and I know if it moves under its own power, I'm going to want to back it out, and yeah, it might not be good. So I think I've changed course on that a little bit. I think I'm going to, the next step probably is going to be doing the brakes on this thing. And I've got one of those master cylinders that sits sideways. It has the bell crank, so you can put all that under the dash instead of having that thing sticking out on the firewall. That's how I did in the Dojulac. And so that's coming up. I'll be installing that, and that's pretty interesting work, getting that all sorted out. And it's not that I know how to do it. I just got to want to. I want it bad enough. I'm going to make it happen, So that's coming up. And then maybe in this winter at some point, I might get that D100 in that I picked up as well, because that's a pretty nice little swept line Dodge pickup, 66, I think. And I just picked up an engine for that. So that's all coming up on this channel.
Yeah, we certainly have a real decent Mopar following here on the Car Guy and SIXFAN show. Thanks mostly because of the likes of like Nick's Garage popping in as much as they do, and the Coastal Auto Reaction, some of our bigger Mopar followers. Of course, Mopar Den, he's been around for quite some time. So yeah, you guys, you can't miss swept line. Well, that guy with the Cordoba. Yeah, sure. But yeah, no, we love our Mopar guys, and it actually looks like Jed from Scott's Speed Shop, who I visited on Sunday. He's got his video up of the flip side of that episode, so on his channel here tonight. So go check that out if you guys haven't seen that. I just want to say thanks, Ken, for taking time out of your Thursday to join us in 146, looks like, or Yeah, 146 is now the all-time record. So I would just wanted to say thanks to everybody who's tuning into the Car Guy and SIXFAN show for the first time. Little bit about the show, just so you know, if you've enjoyed your time here this week, we do have a show next week, same time. However, not same bat channel because it's a joint collaboration between these two channels. We bounce back every other week. So you have to be subscribed to both Straight SIXFAN and Old Car Guy, Jason, to catch next week. So Jason, I'll turn it over to you and let you close out the show and kind of parting shots, if you will.
Yep, for sure. So next week, we don't necessarily have anything planned. It's going to be what we classify as a legacy episode. So no guest, unfortunately, but we've got some really big guests coming up for the end of the season and a couple special episodes at the end. So make sure that you tune in, like Grant said, to my channel next week, because that's where we'll be hosting this show at the same time, 7 o'clock Central, 8 Eastern, 9 on my time, and 9:30 if you're with Everything is Broken Garage over there in Newfoundland. So make sure you tune in. Thank you guys for setting some records with us. It's been great. It was so awesome to see some new faces in the chat that we've never seen before, some of those new names, and always great to see some of the regulars there with us as well. So without you guys supporting our channel, we can't do what we do, or we wouldn't be doing it, because without viewers, there's no sense in having a conversation live with each other, because that's just no fun. Anyways, Ken, on behalf of myself and Grant, we'll thank you one more time for being a part of the show, because we do classify you, and a lot of people in the chat have classified you as a legend. So thank you very much for being a part of the show.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Appreciate you.
All right. Thanks, guys. We'll do it again next week. Stay focused on the windshield.